Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here today with Deri Llewellyn-Davies. Welcome, Deri.
Great to be here, Debbie. Looking forward to this.
Yes, me too. So, Deri grew up in a small rural village in Wales where a strong sense of community shaped his approach to leadership and responsibility. Over more than 3 decades, he has advised and sat on over 330 boards, becoming known for helping organizations think clearly under pressure. He is the creator of the strategy on a page methodology, a #1 bestseller that has helped thousands of founders scale with purpose. Alongside his boardroom work, Deri has tested human limits through the extreme challenges, including climbing 6 of the world's highest mountains, completing the Marathon des Sables, I'm not sure what that is, and racing Ironman events. These experiences informed the development of ultra states, a framework that views performance as state selection rather than motivation, reframing burnout as the result of overusing a single state. As a podcast guest, Deri brings clear thinking, lived experience, and a systems level perspective on leadership, pressure, and human performance. Okay, wow. So I know I didn't read that before. I never
Yeah,
do. And
that was a mouthful.
I'm so impressed. I've been running. I just got back from the Napa Valley. So I'm so impressed with what you do. We're going to go deep into it, but I ran one marathon in my life and I only did it because something my son said. He said 5 words: I want to challenge myself, when he told us he wanted to go into the Marines. We have no military background. And so I'm a Sicilian mother. My chin dropped and I was like shaking. Anyway, I sat out to understand what it would be like to challenge yourself. So I ran a marathon on mindset and immersing myself into the mindset of a Navy SEAL. So you have run multiple races. So before we go there, I'm very visual. Paint a picture. You're in Wales. You grew up in Wales. What was it like? And when you were growing up, what was it like growing up? And did you think you would be where you are today growing up as a little boy in Wales?
Absolutely not. Um, the village background, I was brought up in a village, and there was no big aspiration, and that's the truth. And there was no family aspiration. None of my family ever went to university or finished school, really. So I just, I loved school. I actually enjoyed it, and I think that's helped me. I just developed and ended up going to university, which was a bit of a rarity. I also played rugby. I loved rugby. And that was my life. And it was quite simple, really. It was the simple life. I wanted to be a fighter pilot because I watched Top Gun in the 1980s, and then by the time I was 16, I was 6'4", and I couldn't be a fighter pilot. Destroy a boy's dreams right early. And then the only other thing I knew down in Wales was it had chemical oil refineries. That's the only thing we have in West Wales for tourism. So I went to university, became a chemical engineer, and the rest's history. I was a shit chemical engineer. Let's just be clear. I did not enjoy my degree. But that's where it began, and so I had no idea. I didn't understand what boards were, what business was, and I think that's part of the beauty of life, right? And I think I've got 4 beautiful children coming through now, and I'm like, they're all like, oh, my 18-year-old's panicking about her life choices. I'm like, just make a choice and then change a choice. It's fine.
Yes.
I did. So no, I had no concept I'll be here doing and talking to you today and with all of this stuff. But that's part of Life's Great Adventure, which was my first book actually, which is I do believe life's a great adventure. It's there to be explored. And I've been kind of kicking the ass out of life ever since my mid-20s, really I just want to see the best this world's got to offer. I want to understand what I can do as a human being and what's potential. And I also want to help people along the way. I've been, advising for many years now, and it's like I have to be my best if I'm going to help other people be their best. And
Right.
I never stop doing that. It's going to be, I never will until the day I
Right.
die. Shoot me,
I am
then I'm
right there, right there with you. I just gave a book talk based on my new book, Mindset in Motion: Activate Purpose, Power, and Peak Performance. And it wasn't something I set out to do. And then it materialized based on, I thought, oh, I'm going to research how to do a TED talk. And then I woke up the next morning and I said, oh, I need to really know what I want to talk about before I could do a TED talk. And a year later, the book was complete. But I was talking to a group of women last night, and I said, people are like, well, why don't you retire? I've been in real estate 35 years. And I'm like, I will never retire. I will continue to work and help my clients and meet new people. I will continue to inspire people and coach and give back and share my story. And it sounds like you are exactly that same person. So tell me, God, I want to talk about so many things, especially all your running, but how how did you become to be on 330 boards? There was something you did other than chemical engineering that pivoted you from doing this sort of a one-dimensional job into doing what you're doing today. How did that pivot happen?
It was several pivots, like I think life is sometimes, right? So it's not
Yes.
one. But I came into the corporate world. I did really, I got my degree. I had a very good mentor figure who was my girlfriend at university. Her father mentored me because I was dating his daughter. As a father now, I now know what that means. So he took me under his wing and mentored me. And he was CEO of Cybergeigy, which was a big pharmaceutical company. I had no clue about business. But I think he figured if you're dating my daughter Sunshine, I'm gonna sort you out, and he did. And I, through his advice and his mentorship, I came into the corporate world and I rose through the ranks of British Oxygen, Mars Inc., and ended up on the European board of Corning. So over about 8 to 9 year journey, I went straight through to European board level, and that was my leadership journey. They invested a lot in me. I learned, I grew, I developed. I loved business. I was hungry for and then I went management consulting side, and that's where the boards really began. To be in my corporate career, I was already sitting on boards on the side. I just loved business, and I was quite good at it, or so I thought. I thought I was really good at it then. I know now I wasn't really good at it then. I'm all right now, but getting better, right? So that's and then from there on, I was just doing accelerator programs, so I was advising quite a lot at the same time. And 25 years later, it just stacks. I'm never going to stop advising boards. I love it. Like you, whoever your friends are, God bless them if they listen to this. I'm really sorry to abuse you here, but do not give anyone advice to retire. That's the stupidest advice you could give
Through
anybody to
what?
retire. To retire, like
Oh, I know.
retirement, that's such a
No,
bad thing. 'Cause-
no.
And it's that, no, I don't mind if you like want to step away from a work or a career and focus your life on something else amazing and live full
Right.
out. Okay, I'm good for that. This retirement word's a bit dangerous.
It
And
is.
we know that, you lose purpose. If your purpose has been your work and you have loved your work and you are passionate about your work and you're doing good with your work and you're serving people with your work, sorry, I won't swear.
Yeah,
Why would you retire? Right? That's bad advice. Anyway, I'll get off my
I know.
soapbox, Debbie.
No, I know it's true. It's like I was running, I hadn't run in 2 years, and I went out and ran a half marathon, and I met this young man came up to me who was like 23, and he's like, will you take my photo? And I said, of course. And then I love mentoring young people, and I love talking with young people. And so we ended up running together, but he's 23. And I said, I'm 62. I said, I really want to do this race. Actually, it's the founder is based out of near you in Ireland. And it's called the Great World Race, 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days. So I'm looking to raise sponsorships to do it, but I want to prove that you can do it on mindset. And anyway, he's like, I'm running my race. And I said, look at how much you're going to do by the time you're 62. And he's like, oh, and his mom is like in her 50s and she's retired. And I'm like, what would people do when they're retired? And then he said, well, I'm going to do my marathons now and then I'm going to, be done. And I want to retire at, I don't know, some crazy young age. And I'm like, my heart just started like pounding. I'm like, no, I couldn't educate him everything in 1 second, but I'm like, no, don't retire. I'm going to call him and be like, no, you're not going to retire. Life will get more interesting and you'll learn new things and you'll pivot and you'll find other things to do. But don't, I feel like that's like flatline. Like it's literally
Mm.
when someone says that word, I'm like, you're going to flatline and then you're going to die. I mean, my dad is in his 80s, 86, and he still is doing real estate and doing 1031 exchanges, and he's vibrant and he looks amazing and he's 86. And I think if you don't use it, you lose it.
100%. And we'll move into states at some point later on, and there's a very clear evidence. If you want to access flow state, which is arguably, I think, one of the most amazing states on the planet, which we've been gifted as human beings. And if you do not have a very clear purpose, you're not online for purpose, you won't get into flow. It's very, that is a very clear underpinning factor to it. So, and the moment you retire, you've just lost purpose in a big. So,
Uh,
so that's yeah, and like, geez, that saddens me. You've got a 22-year-old,
I,
like, just like
I'm
smash the
like,
arse
you're
out of
just
it now, and then I'll retire. I'm like, why would you? Who's given you that
exactly.
advice? That's
Like,
terrible.
why is that an achievement? It's like, no, you just got to, keep going and reinventing. I told someone today, I was having coffee with her. She's like, I'm in real estate, but I want to do something else, but I don't know what it is. I just said, start writing. She's like, I'm a bad writer. I go, no one needs to see your writing. I just want you to get it out. Who are you? What do you like? Just start writing and get into flow and figure, something. Look, one of the quotes I say is, look for the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's where the magic lies. Just be curious. Anyway, okay, what sorts of lessons? I mean, you are a wealth of information, physically, mentally, I'm sure spiritually, but give us some lessons that would be valuable for people who are looking to achieve success, whatever that means to them. What are some valuable lessons you gave on all these boards? Just 1 to 3 nuggets.
I think, and this is boards on life. It's the same underlying principle, which is why when I saw your work, we aligned, and that's why you and your book we aligned, right? Um, let's just move away from the word success for a moment, because what is the purpose? And I
Right.
number one, lead with purpose, and I lead with purpose everywhere. I have done for 30 years. My first book, Strategy on a Page. Before I do any strategy, any business, I need to know what the purpose is, and we need to be very deep on that before we build a business. And I think that's the I was quite pioneering, because that was over 28 years ago. I was leading, I was business led with purpose. That was quite
Wow.
pioneering back then. I've
Yes.
stuck to it. The book was actually just republished. Strategy on a Page was republished 6 months ago. And bear in mind, I hadn't touched that book for nearly 20 years, and changed 1% of it, because the fundamentals of business just don't change. That was
Wow.
quite fascinating for me, and I was almost like I was reading somebody else's book, because you you've just read your book. Like, when you're so close to writing your book, you can't. I don't want to see my book again. It's
Oh,
I've done it once,
absolutely.
right?
I'm
But
done.
20 years later, when you read your book back, and you go, oh wow, that's really interesting. That's what I was thinking then, and it
Wow,
hasn't
that's
changed.
impressive.
So, and then so the number one, I say number one, number two, and number three lesson is purpose always, no matter what. And I think
Yeah.
this is in business. This is, what does that mean, right? So what I did is I broke purpose into 5 elements for business. Now there's life purpose as well. Um,
Mhm,
they need to be aligned, I would argue. But
mhm,
business purpose is, what do we truly love to do? What's our passion? Because we should be leading with passion within our business if we're going to have a competitive weapon. What's the service and value we're bringing to the world? Notice service and value we're bringing to the world. What's the market opportunity to serve that? Because we can be very confused with hobby businesses if we're not careful. What's the
mhm.
financial purpose of that business? Because there needs to be one. And then also, what's the lifestyle purpose of that business? Because we can really screw our lives up by building a so-called business of our dreams, right? And then get
Right.
ourselves trapped in the very thing that we tried to give us freedom. So that's I'd say that's the main nugget, I would say, from a business perspective. Always lead
Okay.
with purpose, and culture, it will eat strategy for breakfast. I'm all
Yes.
about talent, and its culture, no matter what. So
Okay. Right. I just, in the end of my TED talk, I said the difference between who you are today and who you could become is not based on talent. It's based on your willingness to activate one goal, one belief, one uncomfortable step at a time. But you're right. It's not talent. It's what you have inside and what you want to do. I love it. So tell us. Let's go to the physical side. So you
mm.
climbed what? Tell us what you climbed, and did you train, and why did you decide to do it? Was there some spark that ignited you to want to do it?
Yeah, let's get back to the why I did it, because otherwise I sound nuts, right? So it was over 22 years ago now. So my father passed away. So I sat on my father's deathbed. I didn't know it was his deathbed. He was just sick. He had got cancer, and he just died incredibly fast. So I sat on his bed, and I was held his hand, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, "Son, I regret so much in life." And he told me about what he regretted. And it was very simple. He wished he'd traveled the world with my mom. He wished he'd done these things. And all of those things he could have done. He had money, he had savings in the bank, he had the time, there was no excuses to do it. And then 2 days later he died, right? So 22 years ago, I just went, screw that. I am not going out like that. So my dad, bless him, in his last days, gave me an incredible legacy. He didn't give me a legacy in money or wealth, but that message, which rocked me to my core, has been my central message in all my keynotes and everything I've done ever since, right? And led everything I did. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to smash the arse out of life and I'm going to live a life of no regrets, what does that mean? And it meant
Yeah.
multiple things. I love business, and hence the board work and everything else evolved deeply into that, and the work that I've done with founder communities around the world and ultra states now. But part of that was also, do you know, I want to stretch the boundaries of what's possible. You know, what can this human body achieve? And I want to see the most amazing things on this planet. And so I coined and I had travel plans. I've been in like 48 countries now or whatever, because I'm always traveling. I love seeing amazing things in the world. I love exploring things with my family. But I also wanted to kick the arse out of adventure. So I was like, right, I want to climb the 7 highest summits, right? The 7 summits on each continent. I want to go to the 2 poles. I want to run 6 marathons across the Sahara Desert, run across the jungle, do an Ironman, and kind of just leaned in. And that was 20 years ago. And I haven't stopped since then. I've just always next adventure, next adventure. So, and I think this is important things. Of I've got my purpose is big and grand and quite scary and never ending. And by the way, I'm always adding shit to the list. Like, you know, there's
Me too.
7 marathons around the world, and so my couple of my mates have done that one. So I might be in with
Have
you on
they?
that one, Debbie, because
Yeah,
I'm
we should
always
do it.
adding stuff. There's always cool shit, amazing
Right,
stuff that you can do, right? Um,
right.
so that's where it began, and I began with the Marathon des Sables, which was a stupid place to begin. Which
Where
um,
is that? I don't know what that is.
that
Sorry. What is
that's 6 marathons back to back across the Sahara Desert, carrying everything you need to survive on your back for a week. The toughest foot race on earth. So that's where I began. So that was a bit crazy. And from that, everything's emerged, and I've been
right?
training ever since, and the Ironmans. And I'm back on Everest now. We're training. We're training for Everest. I'm heading out to the Himalaya. I'm actually heading up to Scotland now tonight because I'm going to climb this weekend. But we're out to the Himalaya in October, and Project Can't is being launched. Watch this space, people. I'm guiding wingman for a guy called Jamie McCansh. So anyone's got excuses, right? A lot of people go, "That's crazy. I couldn't do that. All these big mountains." Jamie McCansh came to me last year, said he can't do things. He is paralyzed from the waist down. He has bionic legs, and we are now going for the North Face of Everest together.
The North
So,
Face of Everest together? Oh my
indeed.
God.
So
That
he
is
just he broke a world record again last week. He just climbed from zero to the highest peak in Canada on the bionic legs. He's done Kilimanjaro now on bionic legs, and now we're guiding and we're on the run into Everest. So and it's called Project Can't, right? Because you can, and actually all you
right.
need to do is believe in yourself and have people around you that
Wow.
believe in you too. So
Wow.
so my adventures, yeah, I've done some amazing things. I'm very blessed, and I've trained consistently for years. I've kept myself super healthy. I love what I do, and it gives me more energy
Right.
than anything. I'll never stop. But it's the people I've met along the way, the incredible people. It's the people that I bring through the stories. It's not me. It's not me running. So me running across the Sahara, right? Yes, really hard. But
Yeah.
there was a 72-year-old great grandfather showing his great grandchildren what was possible in life because they were going through some tough times back in America. There's a guy who'd broken his back 4 years earlier and was told he'd never walk again running across that desert. There was a blind man from France running across that desert. I could
Oh,
go on. So the
wow.
people I've met, people look at me, go, "Oh my Derry, you've done these amazing things." Yeah, I have. But the people I've met along the way are absolutely inspirational. And that's what my stories are all about. It's
Yeah,
bringing in people I've
absolutely.
met.
Okay, you're running on sand, right?
Yes.
How do you run on sand? I could barely run down the beach on sand. You're running the whole time?
Yes, that's what makes it the toughest foot race on earth. And it's really brutal because you're going to Sahara, obviously 40-degree heat plus, and sandstorms, and it was a crazy year we did it. A person died the year we did it. It was a brutal year to say the least. But you have to have I had to have full gaiters because if the sand gets into your trainers, you're
Oh,
stuffed. And there's people with their soles of their feet ripped off because it's sandpaper, basically, not my shoes. So I did lose the most of my little toes, to be fair, and half of the bottom of my feet. So, but we carried on. um, but
okay.
yeah, it's tough. It is tough. That's a tough race.
And now you're going to go climb Mount Everest, but you've climbed other mountains before.
Yeah, I've been, and this is the thing, you don't just wander into Everest. I've been climbing for 2 decades and 6 of the 7 summits. Now, I've been on Everest before, so I was on the North Face before. It's not my first rodeo on Everest. Didn't summit though. We were the highest men in the world in 2015 when the earthquake hit. So we were in the Himalaya on the North Face when the earthquake hit. So I have quite an experience with Everest, and it's time to go back and put those
Oh,
demons to rest.
wow. You're amazing. Wow. Okay. So this is insane. Do you have a book on all of this that people can read?
Yeah, so Life's Great Adventure was the first book that took us all the way up to Everest, and then the new book Ultra States really takes in it teaches how to access these ultra states on demand, and this is where I go through the stories, and the Everest stories are all in there. Each chapter is kind of a little bit of a story, but obviously it's the science behind what I'm talking about. So
Well, tell
um,
us, what does that mean, ultra state?
yeah, so this is and again, another pivot, right? So you wander through life. I was sitting there, age 50, coming into my 51st birthday, going, I wonder, okay, what's the next 10 years? I like to plan in 10 years, right? So what's the next decade look like? And I thought it was going to be flow state. I've been majoring on flow state for the last decade. I hadn't realized I've been playing with flow for 25 years, right? But I didn't call it that. I called it runner's high, or whatever you kind of, when you're running and you get to a certain level, this is where it's quite well documented and well known. But so flow state is, I think, one of the best states. So let's just touch on flow for a minute, and then I'll talk
Yep.
about the other states. But so just for everyone listening, what is flow state? This is very well documented. It's 50 years of science behind Csikszentmihalyi. He was the guy who coined this phrase. So this is quite a scientific term. It's not like Deri's made up flow. Stephen Kotler in America is amazing on this work. So flow state is very well documented. And you'll know it when you're in it, in that you feel it's when you lose track of self, you lose track of time, you're fully immersed in the moment, and you're fully present. So you're still doing stuff. It's not meditation. There's a lot of people go, oh, is that meditation? Or is this, it's not meditation. It's not a deep yoga practice. It is, you're still thinking. And flow state, this is when you're writing, when you're creative, when you innovate. It's an incredible state to access. And people recognize it from running, surfing, skiing. It's all of the sports have it. It's literally built into sport. And team sports is group flow at epic levels. So this, when you're at your best, that's flow. And that's what I've experienced running across the desert, climbing the mountains, doing Ironman, or not so much on the Ironman because I hated the bike. But flow states I've been playing with for years. Then I actually hadn't realized, but I was bringing flow into work. And so on the boards, I'm in flow a lot. On the speaking stages, I'm definitely in flow, right? Right now, I'm with you. I'm just present. I'm here. I don't even know
Right.
what you're going to ask me next. You have to be in the flow,
Right.
right? So I think it's an incredible state, and it's an ultra state for me, ultra flow. And it's the one that I think people have turned off the most. People just struggle accessing that one because of modern technology. Um, so that's where Ultra States was born. It was going to be around flow. But then I was like, hang on a minute, I'm only in flow about 10, 15, 20% of the time max, because it's actually neurochemically very expensive. So you can't stay in there long. You have to get out and you have to recover well. So I was like, well, what's other states? Because I quite like dialing life in generally. So I was like, is there states beyond flow? And that's where it emerged. So I studied. So for me, a state is, we've got different brainwave patterns, alpha, beta, gamma. We all know it's very clear science. We've got different brainwave patterns. So for me, a different state constitutes a different brainwave. Literally. It also constitutes a different neurochemical pattern, which we know very clearly what neurochemicals are firing now. It's got a slightly different physiology and a psychology part to it as well. So you go, it's a completely different way of operating. And yet we as humans have hijacked ourselves in one dominant state most of the time, which is what's causing burnout and stress and all the rest of it. So that's where it began. And then the 6 ultra states came out of that, which is ultra flow.
Okay,
That's
hold on
the
one
cool one.
second. We got to go quick break and we'll be right back. Hold that thought.
Hold that
Hold,
space, right? Hold that space.
hold that space.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Deri. All right, Deri, you can go back to that thought. Ultra
We're hanging in there, right? So the states. So what we were saying was, flow state is what I've mastered on and what I love. But there was so many other states based on brainwave patterns and neurochemicals, in particular. And so what emerged was the 6 ultra states. So focus is a good one. We need to focus. Lock and load, do what matters, get shit done, focus, right? That is key. And yet people are struggling like shit with that one, right? So
Yes.
Focus state, flow state, they are really nicely combined. If you can just drop into flow and creativity and then be able to drop back into focus, because that is actually vision, execution, that's the superpower in between those two states. And they're high engaged states, both of those. But then you've also got peak. That is when you've got to turn it on. And of course, with the stuff I've done around the world and all the big adventures and stuff, sometimes you've got to just turn it on, right? It's not just sitting there and go, I'm just access flow state now. I've got Summit. I've got to lock and load for the next 20 minutes, or I've got to turn it on for that push. So, and peak, we've realized peak's a different state. It's involving different, beautiful little fleeting moments of gamma and stuff. This awe and wonder is in that as well. So then you've got the other side of the fence, which is recovery states. So you've got recovery, which I think as a world we have completely ballsed up. And I mean deep recovery. And I think we've now think recovery is Netflix and chill. And it is not. Don't get me wrong. I love a bit of Netflix and a movie with the kids or whatever. But I know that's not recovery. That's just chill, right? So it's like the dopamine addiction with, I'm holding up a mobile phone for those who are listening to this, right? The phone's an amazing tool which have completely distracted us and completely pulled us out of our ability to access states, which is part of the problem we're facing right now. So recovery, and there's a deeper form of recovery which deserved its own state, which is called reboot. If you've pushed it too long, too hard, too fast, you've got to actually down tools and do a proper long reset. It's been built into humanity for thousands of years. We've just forgotten about it, right? You look at every deep religion, there's always a fasting period or a deep down to period. We had winters, which we used to use and actually relax. So we've lost this ability to recharge, because actually if you can reboot and you can recover strongly, you can access the main states better. You just got the ability to access them. And then the lost state, which is where I love the most, which is partly what we're doing. We're a bit of flow and a bit of connect right now. It's connect. It's the ability to truly connect with another human being. Now that's a state. And I'm not talking transactionally connect. I'm not talking you sitting opposite someone, you're having a conversation, having a meeting, they're thinking about what they want to say next, you're thinking about what you want to say next, and you're transacting. That's not connection. Deep connection is neurochemical. You've got oxytocin and serotonin flowing, and you feel the other person, and you're there, and you feel fully present, fully alive, fully engaged with other human being. That's beautiful when we can do that. And yet we are so transactional these days. We've actually forgot there's so much science around sitting around a campfire and having a conversation with another person. Like, we've been doing it for thousands of years, and yet we've stopped doing it. And that's where we truly were connecting. So, and that's the ultra state. So it's the ability, one, understanding it's a science now of what these states are and how to access them. And then the real magic is what I call transition state, which is you need to have the ability to transition between them. That's the key. And for me, that's about when I'm smashing it in business and I'm on it, like full on, I need to be able to come and switch the switch, do some breath work, do some movement, do whatever I need to do to go and be fully present with my children. You know,
These
and
are
I think this,
amazing.
we are bleeding from work into play or not play, as the case may be. And we are just bleeding states all over the place. And most of us are hijacked on cortisol and high beta most of the time. So we're just bleeding one constant state. So that's ultra states.
I love it. Well,
It's been
it's
a
so true.
25-year journey, and it continues, right? So
And so these are states that were these written before, or you just put it, are you the first person to put all this together into a book, or is this out there in bits and pieces, or did you come up with these different states, or how did you
yeah,
come up
it's
with
out
it?
it's out there in bits and pieces. So I'm the one I've kind of coined ultra states. Flow state being the core one to this. Flow is very well documented. You know,
Right,
Csikszentmihalyi, Kotler, I would quote those all day long. Then you look at and I've in the book, I've referenced it with about 210 white papers and references, scientific. So this is like, and this is the point is there's loads of evidence, but it's everywhere. And
right.
I was
That's
like,
what,
okay. And that's been the problem. I've just distilled it and simplified it into 6 states. There is a 7th state and arguably an 8th, but it's a bit too far out there, right? So
right,
this is when you're going into transcendental states and you're going, this is kind of the ayahuasca ceremonies and the good feelings of awe and all the rest of it. That is definitely an altered state, which is a different state. I
right,
ain't going there in the book, just so we're clear.
right.
um,
Well,
a little bit too much from people, that one.
yeah, and it could keep going. Well, you're right about you get to it easier, I'd say, when you're in a sport. So and I want you to tell me a little bit how to get into some of them, but I'll tell you from my race on Sunday, when when I'm running, and I don't run like the 23-year-old that said, "You don't run for a hobby." I said, "No, I just decide to do a race and I do it just because that's my mindset." And so when I'm running along and all of a sudden I'm in that space, but a song comes on. I do not know how people run without music. So anytime Coldplay comes on and I have to get my kids to fix my playlist, I don't want some slow songs. I only want fast songs. But my husband said at mile 8, it was a half marathon. At mile 8, he said, you did a 7-minute mile. Well, that's when my favorite Coldplay song came in. And I was just mile 8, not 1, 2, or 3. I was at mile 8, and I was listening to Coldplay and I just like pour, and I was like definitely in flow, but I was just in that locked in, as I call it. And I always have to wear headsets when I'm doing my podcast. So I'm blocked out from anything else and I'm locked in. And in my book, I talk about the lock in method. But I just, so that was how I get into my flow state. And that's how I just took off, and it was peak, I guess, and push and all of the notes I was taking. But how could people get into that state, if it's not through sports?
So if we let's just doesn't matter sports or not sports. There's a very clear process to access flow state and all the other states. And this is the way I've done it. This is the state. This is the mechanics if you understand it. And therefore, if you now you understand this is how you access it, right? Because you have to understand the state, because if
Right,
we're at the moment we are unconsciously incompetent, bundling through life. We're in a state every single moment of every day. You're in a state. Whether you've consciously chosen that is a complete another matter, right? So with flow, let's just go there. First of all, you have to have a greater purpose for it, right? That's flow won't, there's macro flow and micro flow. It comes in big and smaller versions, right? But if you want to really turn on the big guns of flow, you got to have a purpose. So when you with your son, and when you had that challenge, you had something bigger. There was a bigger
yes,
reason. You need that to fire it up, because it's actually that's going to get you through the shit times and the dark times, right? Whether that's sport or work. This is
right,
why if everyone says, "Oh, build a business, it's easy," well, that's bullshit.
yeah,
There's going to be really hard days. And it's the
Yeah.
purpose that's going to get you through the hard days, just like it's the purpose that gets you through the hard miles, right? In the
Right.
marathon, right? So then you stack it back and you stack it back to clear goals and you get it right back to the moment. So when you're getting into the pocket, because when you're in flow, about a 90-minute flow block is epic, right? You can, and then take
Yeah.
a rest. You can go again if you're a master, right? But
Yeah.
you just want to drop in the pocket. Now, in that pocket of flow, you got to know why you're in that pocket, right? And you've got to be very clear. No distractions. You are absolutely 100% right. Locked in. You're in. There's no distractions. I'm fully there, right? The moment you get distracted, you're out of flow, right?
Right.
So you have
Right.
to protect your space like a machine,
I
which is
just got the
what you talk
chills.
about,
You have
right?
to
You,
protect your
this,
space.
this is
Absolutely.
what you talk about, right? But that is it. Why are we protecting the space? To protect the neurochemicals and the frequency pattern to lock in what we want to do, which is engage mega flow. Now, flow, the McKinsey science is showing the 500% productivity gains in flow, 300% creativity gains. Like, this is an epic state in work, right? So this is writing, creating, building that deck, building, whatever you want to do. It's strategy time, visioning time. That's flow state, right? So you've got to set the world up to drop into that moment, and then you want to you've got to kind of lift into it. It's called struggle. Actually, the first part of flow is struggle. This is what a lot of people don't understand.
No.
Csikszentmihalyi nailed this. He nailed this 50 years ago, and Kotler and the Research Collective and stuff recently have proven it scientifically, right? So you don't just sit there, go and you drop into flow. It doesn't work like that. There's a
Right.
thing called mastery, challenge, skill, right? Which is where you've got to be stretching and growing along the way. And guess what? Some of that's tough. That's the point. Life is meant to be a bit of a challenge and tough. You want to be pushing on the edge of tough, which is the struggle, which is what you start now. Whenever I run, whenever I do the mountains, the first few miles are a bit crap,
I
right?
was just, oh my God, I just said this because I know nothing about running other than I just do it. But I'm like, why is the first mile and second mile so hard? And
Yeah,
then
because
once you're going, it all of a sudden it becomes easier.
that's the struggle, right? And
Oh
that's
my
the
God.
same in everything. The struggle phase is, fuck it, I don't want to do this. It's like I'm getting into it. The body's not quite dropped into the zone. The heart rate hasn't got into the right level. Everything's kind of recalibrating, right? Just like it is if I'm sitting down there, it's hard, right? I want to build this deck, and it's like and I got to wrestle with something first, and I'm not quite sure how that angle's going to. I'm not sure how I'm going to take that structure there. So you've got to wrestle with something, right? When you wrestle, and you've got to be very clear on what you're wrestling with. And then, and this is where the release happens, right? So at some point, mile 2, mile 3, where suddenly you'll take a breath unconsciously, but the breath is actually a very key release mechanism to a state, and also a key, the breath and breath work is just scientifically profound, right?
I didn't
So
know that when I'm running.
but you
I'm
will
just,
take a breath in breath. You will take a breath naturally running without knowing it, right? And
yeah.
at some point, you suddenly it's like poof. You just drop into the. It's called, people call it the pocket. You'll drop into the zone. You'll drop into runner's high, and then boom, you're in. Now you'll come out again, and then you'll go back in again, and you'll come out again, and you go back in again. And it depends on your level of mastery. If you train and train and train and train, if you are like a master runner, you can be in flow state for that whole half marathon,
Wow.
right? But now that's skill balance. That's a skill challenge ratio there, which is you just got to get better, 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 slowly, slowly, slowly. When I was running the Marathon des Sables, some of the best runners running 6 marathons across the Sahara were in their 50s and 60s because they had just trained consistently all their lives, and now they were just running for joy, and they were amazing. So,
Wow.
so a big part of it is how good you are. Mastery also defines the flow. So now let's just bring this back into business and everything else, but it's like art, music, playing chess, you name it, whatever it is this is it. Find something you love, find something you're passionate about, find a purpose. Flow will be there. You've got to learn and grow and challenge yourself and move, and you'll be able to drop into the flow state. There's a couple of things around that. You want to be clear, you want to be focused, there's rituals really help. So you've got an accidental ritual. That music comes in, boof, your ritual's off, and you've just triggered it.
Wow.
Music helps a lot. I work with Newcom, Jim Poole, amazing guy. They've got apps that will help you drop into the states. I'm partnering with
What
them
was
now.
it called? What was it called?
Newcom, Nucalm. we've got a partner with them. You can get a discount with them. I think it's Ultra States. Go onto the Ultra States website, and there's a new partner in
Oh,
there. So
okay.
it's an app, and it'll help you drop into focus. It's got in it because this is using music, but it's not just music. It's actually the science behind the music, because the music can actually take the brainwave pattern down.
Wow.
So music. Why does music work? Oh, because it's music. No, well, different musics do different things, and because
Right.
it brings different brain frequencies into play. And Newcom, genius, what they did. I actually wrote Ultra States, not knowing about Newcom. Then
Wow.
Jim Poole found out about me. I found out about Jim Poole. He built Newcom, amazing piece of technology dropping into states, and we just went, oh my god, look at that, that just fits. But he's used, and it's patented technology, which can bring you in. It's actually used for sleep, for napping.
I used on YouTube, they have the Hertz or whatever. I listen to the sleep meditations.
So
I
that's
love that.
that is using sound and frequency to get your brain, help the brain get into the frequency it needs to get into. That's exactly what I'm talking about with ultra states, which is what state do you want to be in? Therefore, what is that frequency? That's that's the beginning. And
Oh,
like the technology and the science we've got for this now, wow. It's like
right.
we're living in an age that's just mind blowing, exciting.
It is. And so we go to ultrastates.com to find more on you and more on Newcom.
Yes. Ultra hyphen, there's a hyphen in the middle, ultra-stage.com. And then there's resources there. The new calm stuff's in there. There's plenty of resources.
All right. So tell us, I haven't been on Summit, but I have friends who've gone on it. Tell us the thought behind Summit and then what you're doing with Tribe.
So it's not me, the summit. So my partner in America. So I was actually sitting on a board, One Golden Thread, which is a fashion brand in Los Angeles, amazing clothes, sustainable fashion. So I'm sitting on this board guiding on sustainable fashion, and Jeremy Schwartz was on the board with me. And Jeremy was co-founder of Summit. There's four guys who co-founded Summit. Jeremy was one of them. So those guys built an epic following in the tribe with Summit. So I love what Summit stands for in the USA and what it's done for the entrepreneurs and the founders community. Um, so Jeremy and I was actually going, I want to really create something intimate, deeply intimate kind of, we need founders between the 1 to 20 million pound space. It's very lonely. It's very different. They can't talk to their friends or their family about their problems because no one understands them like another founder of that space. And so we built what was now F4 Inc. So this is about, and we're building it globally. London, Los Angeles launched, San Francisco's coming, Austin, Texas, Dubai, Singapore. So it's about joining up global founders, but in a deeply curated and intimate way. We've got curriculums and operating systems and stuff, but do you know what? And then this is back to Ultra Connect. The most important currency I feel is trust. Um, and that's a flippant thing to say, but a deep and hard thing to do, to be able to facilitate trust and vulnerability within a community takes work. I think we've nailed it. I'm very proud of what we've done. It's highly selective, and it's like no egos in the room, no assholes in the room. It's
Nice.
that's really important because if someone's going to be vulnerable, you've got to be in a safe space. And we know now that science around leadership and everything else and culture is one of the most important things that we need to create in a business is safety.
Right.
That sounds like, if I'd have said that 10 years ago, even if I say it now, a lot of people go, well, that's wishy-washy or bullshit or woo-woo, right? And I'm like, just check the science, because, and just look at the engagement rates in business, like the statistic moves, 82% of people are not engaged in the workplace. The burnout rate, all the statistics are horrible. And I'm like, just provide purpose, provide safety for people, provide them a job that they love to do and are passionate about, and help them access states. You just have a superpower as a team. And more importantly, people will love their lives and it'll be a fun thing to do. So
Right.
that's where
How
I
are
get off
you vetting out that? Because founders could be egotistical, they have their idea, they're locked in, and they're like, I'm the best, and I've done this before and this. How do you, if you have these founders who are superhuman smart people, I'm working with a guy right now. He's so humble and kind, and he's a founder and he sold his company, but he couldn't be kinder. But there are a lot of egos and there's a lot of intelligence. So how are you vetting that? How are you getting around
very
that?
very hard. That's
I
how it.
know.
So, and I mean, it's like I've got clients. Some of my clients. I've had to have pull some of my clients. I'm on boards, right? And I sit on the. I've had to have a word with a few of them and gone, look, I love you. This board's amazing. We do amazing work. You don't play nice with other people. You're not welcome.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and it's because they just don't play nice, right? And I mean,
Right.
you've got to, if you're sitting in the room, we're facilitating deep conversations. You have to have the ability to hold that conversation, be present, and be reciprocal with that. Right?
Right.
And we're building each tribe's maximum 30. We're not going volume on this. You can't scale volume on trust and intimacy, right? So we purposefully keep the tribe small. We'll do multiple tribes in cities, but keep the tribe small, 30, and highly, highly vetted. And also we controversially balance it has to be 50-50 or 60-40 female male. That's a really important thing for us, because if we're going to truly have a representative voice in the room and we're able to share really openly and vulnerably across things, you can't be a bunch of old white male boys sitting around the table. That's myopia. You're just not going to get
Right.
this. You're not going to get a balanced view on life, are you? So I think the way we've balanced the female in the tribe, I think has really helped that. And then because it's a lot easier to bring female. I don't really have to vet the female founders because they're usually awesome and there's no fucking massive ego in the way, right? So,
Right.
um, but it's the males I've got to keep an eye on a bit harder, which
Right.
is where the
You got
problems
to
lie.
keep those lions, tame those lions. And what are the activities? How do you bring people together? What's the format?
So we wanted to do this completely different. So every 2 months we get together very deeply and we go wide on it. It's called F4 because we talk about scale, right? We've got curriculums and operating systems. We do all the hard stuff in business, right? That's important. But also we're talking life and hobbies. We're going deep on health optimization and longevity. And
Mm,
we also play out through the productivity, get your time back piece. So because you've got to get, most people are just, it's time we need to get back from.
right.
So we do the deep labs every 2 months. We have private dinners, maximum 8 people around the dinner table for intimate conversations in private dining rooms. But then we go wider. We've partnered globally with Strive now, which is the Bransons, kind of what they're doing with the next level entrepreneurship. It's amazing. We've just been in Verbia with them. We take people out doing cool things. We actually hang out together, do fun things together. Some of that's a little bit adventure-esque. That's my bag. Jeremy's big on skiing because Summit had Summit. What do they have? They had Powder Mountain and stuff. So he's big on the skiing side of things. We got other people who love the theater and the arts. So it's like, this is about hanging out as human beings together, really being together and enjoying each other's company genuinely as human beings, and
Yeah.
now helping each other scale each other's businesses at the same time, right? And that's and to curate that, it's like, this isn't a networking group, this isn't a CEO forum, it's not, and I've speak for all of those and I love all those, they all have their place, but we
Right.
were like, it's time for something deeper. And I think this word vulnerability, I have been on 330 boards plus now, and I can tell you now, every single one of them had very dark days, shit times, and they had nobody else to talk to but me. And
Wow.
that, I say that 25 years later. Along the way, I'm very blessed that I've been that trusted advisor for so many people. And I take that duty hugely responsibly. But I'm like, that's not healthy. You need to be able to talk to other people like you that
Right.
understand you and have deeper conversations. And there's just not a place for that at the moment. And
Right.
that's why I would have partnered. I'd have happily just sat on somebody else's board and partnered, but it just wasn't out there. So that is why Jeremy and I built F4.
Well,
So
I love
F4.in.
it. I'd like to get more information personally. I think it's so exciting because I will never retire and I'm always interested in meeting. That's why I love my podcast because I get to meet interesting people and learn new things. And we don't have any time. So I wanted to ask, how do you have time for your 4 children and a wife? But we have no time for that. So we'll have to do a part two. But
I make time.
how do we find you? How do people follow you? Instagram, LinkedIn, give us the high low so we can follow you and join
I
you.
think just ultra-stage.com is the best place to get me and my work, but also my name, the big long one that you'll see there. Just go to LinkedIn. I'm mostly on, LinkedIn's the business portal. They are doing other stuff with my social channels at the moment. I'm not really quite fully aware, but LinkedIn's probably the strongest place to
Okay. And good luck on your upcoming, very dangerous journey. Um, it's incredible. You're an incredible person. Thank you so, so much for being on the show today. I loved it. And I will definitely love to connect with you when you come to LA. Thank you
go. Okay.
so much, Deri. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbie DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.